Hello everybody, February 4th, 2022. Bitcoin had fun today, launching up further than was expected, although still within the realm of possibility here for this Y wave up. So the parameters pretty much remain the same. If we're looking at this on the larger picture, we may have bottomed here. I mean, I've been saying since we kind of tanked down into this area that the bottom could be in at any point. We needed to see a 5-wave move form off the low. Ideally, that would have been an impulse, and we haven't seen that. So now the bull's best chance is for it to make a 5-wave diagonal instead, which could also prove the bottom is in potentially. By doing a 5-wave diagonal, but it is much less reliable, and we'll still likely see a pretty significant dump after that, just potentially to a higher low instead of a lower low. But until we see that, if we remain in this red box and we start dumping down, and especially if we go below this point here at B, which is about 36.1 or so, then we are still looking for that lower low to complete this pattern, which at the moment does look slightly incomplete. But that being said, we were certainly into the oversold territory on the daily, and like I've said, we could have expected a bounce at any time. So anyway, let's go into the micro here and see what's going on. If there's anything we can discern from this action. So off of the low that we struck here, which originally I was thinking was the 3rd wave, and therefore we needed a 4th and a 5th. Initially off of that low, we do not have impulsive action. Like I said, we have ABC action, which likely made a W right here, ABC and W. This low here is probably our X. And therefore we have an A, B, and now we're making a C for Y in the bearish case. This is the case for making a new low still, right? And this red box here is pretty much the zone that we would expect for the Y to go. Anywhere in this zone, which I've been saying, anywhere up to like 44K is still well within the realm of possibility. So if we zoom in even further, we might be making a 5-wave move up within C of Y, right? C waves, lots of times, many times, take the shape of 5 waves, so it's not particularly shocking to see. I'm going to go ahead and say that's likely the end of the 3rd wave there. I mean, we could continue extending a little bit higher, but this really, it's a pretty extended 3rd wave already, so that may in fact be the top. And it wouldn't be surprising for that to be the top based on how oversold or overbought we are rather on the RSI and the PPO. So if that is the top, then we have support for a 4th wave currently, typical support for a 4th wave, I should say, right in here, about 40,000 up to 40.8, somewhere in that range would be the ideal support. Unless it wanted to do a diagonal or something upwards, that's possible. It could also truncate. I mean, if this really wants to just keep extending, it could say, you know what, that's all the 4th wave I'm giving you, and just head up directly to the 5th wave target. I think it's reasonable, though, to assume that that is the top of the 3rd based on how overbought we are. But then we have a target here for the 5th wave, and you can see that pretty much pushes us right up to the top of what is to be expected on this C wave of Y, right? So basically what I'm saying is if we can see this play out, maybe with a little dip down here and then another push up, it does not mean anything bullish necessarily. We can have a drop to a lower low from there because we just have a big corrective pattern, a WXY. So please, please, please keep that in mind as a possibility. I'm not saying that that is absolutely going to happen. However, this action in here, all of this 3-wave action, is really not conducive to a long-term bottom. Not that it can't be, but it's not highly supportive of it. So the alternative is if we can continue pressing through, right? If we can continue pressing through, and let me see where exactly we're going to redraw this fib extension for W and X. So you can see 618 to 1236 is what I was drawing, that big red box in there. So realistically, you know, we could still have a top in the third wave of a diagonal. This could be 1, 2, 3, could top here. But the key is going to be what happens on the next pullback. Pretty much in either of these cases, I don't really expect it to get beyond that, although it could, if this wanted to be a third wave in a diagonal, it could go a bit beyond it, up to 45 or even 46. But regardless, what we need to see in the following pullback is support get held and then push up to a new high. And this very clearly gives us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up. 5 waves up through this resistance zone is what we need to see to prove the bottom is in. And that's it. That's as easy as we can make it. After that, we are still going to see a pullback. I don't want to say that there's absolutely zero possibility at all that we keep extending upwards, you know, because sure, it can keep extending, but at some point we get a pullback. And if we get a diagonal like this, the pullback is usually very, very deep. We can come back down into the 30Ks, mid 30Ks, high 30Ks, somewhere in the 30Ks. You know, I don't think there's any reason to FOMO right now. You're not going to miss out on buying Bitcoin at the lows. And by waiting, you've now saved yourself from the possibility of, instead of this happening, what if this happens, right? And you have now bought in up here or wherever, right? And you're stuck holding on to a, you know, a mid 40K buy while it tanks down to 30K. I don't think you want to do that. I don't want to do that. So I need this to prove itself to me in order to prevent that from happening. And this right here is the only way that happens. Okay, so the next pullback that we get, assuming we even go up, right? This could just die from here. I mean, that's always possible too, because we're well within the resistance zone, right? But assuming we get these 5 waves like that, in this section here, the next pullback is going to be extremely important. And really, it should hold. Let me see here. If we make, let's just, for argument's sake, say we go somewhere in that box there, we'll then have a diagonal that looks something like this. And we would really need to hold the bottom of that diagonal. So looks like high 30s, you know, 38, and that makes sense because we've got all of this resistance right here. This was resistance previously, and in a diagonal we're probably going to come down there and test that resistance as support. So if that holds and then presses upwards again to make a diagonal formation like this, we will heavily buy the next pullback with pretty high confidence that the bottom was in back here. If instead the next pullback from here ends up crashing down through that support, then we're going down to that lower low. I mean, I suppose it could continue doing choppy sideways action. There's always that possibility where you just get endless 3-wave moves sideways forever, and it makes everybody really frustrated. I doubt that's going to happen just because, you know, it's Bitcoin, but you never know. It is certainly possible. So I think that pretty much sums it up as far as my view on it right now. We remain at risk of a lower low unless we complete those 5 waves. In the micro view, we've got micro support right here down to about 40K, and micro resistance for this 5th wave, assuming we're done 3, is up here in the 43 to 44K region. So once again, we can stretch as high as 44K and still have that lower low on the table, and it's really how that next pullback forms that's going to be most important. So yeah, I think that's it. I don't have anything else to say except for we've got this daily RSI, of course. I mentioned previously that we did have a daily RSI breakout down here, and it looked like it was going to break back down, but it did hold and we bounced. So that to me is the strongest indication that the bulls have that we may in fact make those 5 waves up. But what's likely going to happen is this is going to push a little higher, then we're going to come down, we're going to push a little higher, and then we're going to have that big deep drop down. And we may end up testing this line again. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But as far as like leaning slightly in the bull's favor for completing the 5 waves, that daily RSI breakout does lean probabilities a bit into the bull's favor, more so than this price action is leaning in the bull's favor anyway. All right, everybody, have a good weekend, and we'll see what the trading action over the weekend brings us. It's always interesting to see, and be careful with that because a lot of times it gets reversed on Sunday and or Monday. All right, good night, everybody.